So, you're thinking about moving to Canada. For an American, it can feel like you're just stepping next door. But here's the thing, while the culture might seem familiar, the rules of the game are completely different. This isn't just another guide. Think of this as your strategic playbook. It's designed to help you navigate all the hidden complexities and actually make your move a success.
All right, before we dive into the details that can literally make or break your move, do me a favor, take a second to like, subscribe, and share this explainer. I'm serious. The information we're about to cover could genuinely save you years of headaches and thousands of dollars in costly mistakes. Let's make sure other people can find it too.
We've structured this entire guide into 6 essential pillars. First, we're going to cover your legal path into the country. Then, we'll dive right into the financial shocks and benefits of daily life up north. After that, we navigate the absolutely critical cross-border money maze, tackle the housing market, cover the must-know logistics for your first few days, and finally, we'll deliver the verdict on whether this whole move is actually worth it.
Okay, first up, your legal path. And listen, this is where Americans have a massive advantage. The process for you is often way faster and more streamlined than for almost any other nationality on the planet. Let me show you exactly why. The secret weapon here is the Canada-United States-Mexico Agreement, or CUSMA. You need to think of this as your personal express lane to getting a work permit. The 2 most popular tickets on this express lane are right here. The CUSMA Professional Permit, which is for skilled workers who already have a job offer, and the Intra-Company Transfer, for folks moving within their current company.
Now, here's the game-changing advantage. QSMA permits are exempt from something called a Labor Market Impact Assessment, or LMIA. For almost everyone else, a Canadian employer has to go through this long, painful process to prove they couldn't find a Canadian for the job. But for Americans under QSMA, you get to skip that entire step. We're talking about saving months of administrative delays.
And this process, it just perfectly illustrates that advantage. Once your employer submits the job offer online, you just grab your documents, your passport, your degree, the offer letter, and you can apply for your work permit directly at the border the moment you arrive, at an airport, at a land crossing, you name it. For most other people in the world, this is completely unheard of. It is a uniquely fast and efficient system. So, you're legally in the country. Great. Now, what is daily life actually going to cost you? Let's look beyond just the sticker price of things and calculate the real financial impact. Because trust me, some of these numbers are going to surprise you. Okay, the single biggest financial shock, in a good way, is healthcare. Just look at this chart. The average American is paying over $3,000 a year out of pocket. In Canada, that number absolutely plummets to under $1,000. And look, this isn't just some small savings. For a family, this one line item can totally change your monthly budget. So what does publicly funded really mean? Well, it covers all the big stuff. Hospital stays, surgeries, visits to your doctor or a specialist, it's all paid for through your taxes. You don't get a bill at the end. But, and this is a really important detail, things like prescription drugs, dental, and vision care, those are typically covered by private insurance, which you'll usually get through your job. Now, if you have young kids, this right here is the other massive financial game changer. Canada is rolling out a national, subsidized $10 a day childcare program. Now, when you compare that to the $1,500 a month, or even more that's common in the US, you are looking at a potential annual savings of over $15,000 per child. That's huge.
But there is a major trade-off, and you need to be aware of it. And that's salaries. As you can see, for a lot of professional jobs, especially in tech, the US just pays more, period, even after the exchange rate. A software engineer will probably take a pay cut. But it's not a universal rule. For some public sector jobs, like being a teacher, Canadian salaries can actually be more competitive, and they often come with much stronger pension plans.
Okay, let's move on to what is, without a doubt, the single most critical and most often ignored part of this whole process, managing your money across 2 different countries. If you get this wrong, the consequences can be absolutely severe. This is where people make their biggest, most expensive mistakes. So, picture this. You've settled into your new life in Canada. You're earning Canadian dollars, you're paying Canadian taxes. That means you can pretty much forget about the IRS, right?
The answer to that question is a huge, unambiguous yes. You still owe the IRS. The United States is one of the only countries in the world that taxes you based on your citizenship, not just where you live. This is absolutely non-negotiable. As long as you are a U.S. citizen, you have to file a U.S. tax return on your entire worldwide income every single year, no matter where you are on the planet. And it's not just about income tax. You also have to file something called an FBAR. That's a foreign bank account report. If the combined total of all your Canadian bank accounts, checking, savings, whatever, goes over $10,000 at any single point during the year, even for one day, you have to file this report. And the penalties for not doing it are brutal, starting at $10,000 per violation.
Now this right here, this is one of the most dangerous financial traps for Americans in Canada. Common Canadian investment accounts, like the tax-free savings account, or TFSA that everyone uses up here, are seen by the IRS as passive foreign investment companies, or PFICs. And what that means for you is punitive tax rates and incredibly complicated reporting. I cannot stress this enough. This is not a do-it-yourself project. You absolutely need a cross-border financial professional to help you navigate this stuff.
All right, let's shift gears and talk about the next big hurdle, finding a place to live. Canada's housing market is famous, or maybe infamous, around the world. So what's the real story on the ground when you're a newcomer? You've probably heard about Canada's foreign buyer ban, and as this timeline shows, it came into effect in 2023 and has now been extended all the way to 2027. Now on the surface, it sounds like you're completely locked out of the housing market as a newcomer, but that's not the whole story.
The key thing to know is that the government created some really important exemptions. The big one for you is this. If you are in Canada on a valid work permit and you have at least 183 days of validity left on it, you are generally exempt from the ban. You can buy one residential property. This is the exact path most working Americans use to buy a home here.
Okay, you've got your permit, you've got a place to live. Now let's talk about the practical day one stuff that so often trips people up in those first few critical weeks.
Thinking about bringing your car with you? Well, it's not as simple as just driving it across the border. You have to go through a formal process with the Registrar of Imported Vehicles Program, or RIV. As you can see, it involves checking that your car is even allowed in, paying various fees, and then completing a final inspection to make sure it meets all the Canadian safety standards. So, after navigating all the legal hoops, the financial traps, and the logistical hurdles, we finally arrive at the most important question of all. For an American, is making this move to Canada actually worth it?
Here's the final verdict. A successful move isn't about escaping something, it's about strategic alignment. It really boils down to these three keys you see right here. First, legal alignment. You have to leverage the unique advantages that CUSMA gives you. Second, financial discipline. You have to accept from day one that you are a taxpayer in two countries and plan for it. And third, a solid regional strategy. You have to understand that your career and your cost of living will be wildly different in Toronto than it will be in Calgary or Halifax. Ultimately, Canada is a country that rewards preparation, not shortcuts. It offers a different model for life. You could say it has a higher floor, but maybe a lower ceiling than what you might be used to in the US. If this guide helped clarify that path for you, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it. Because making an informed decision is always the first step to building a stronger future, no matter where you choose to live.